All right, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, glory, and honor unto Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Harakah Kodash. Double honors unto the apostles and elders of James Great Millstone, and a sincere shalom to Yakim, bringing out this word in diligence and in truth. And as you see the title of the lesson, Americanization, and it says hyphenated the image of the beast, right? So let's read the first precept in the book of Revelation, the 17th chapter, and we're going to get into what Americanization is. Now, this inspiration of this lesson is coming from Apostle Tar. You know, he did a lesson earlier today, and he ended up mentioning the word Americanization, and he was like, "That's a video right there." And so through the Spirit got on me to go into this topic, and here we are. You know, so starting at the top of Revelation 17 at the, 1, it says, "And there came one of the seven angels which had the seven vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither, I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters." Now, who is this speaking of? Who is this great whore that the scriptures are speaking of? Speaking of Babylon the Great, which is who? America, right? The virgin daughter of Babylon, right? It calls her the virgin daughter of Babylon due to what? In fact, that she hasn't had any foreign troops or foreign wars within her soils, man. Right? Also, when you go into the book of Ezekiel and it speaks about the land of unwalled villages, right? Because what happens? America is in between, you know, these moats, so to speak, in between these oceans, so they feel untouchable, right? Because of the distance between them and other lands. But it's the great whore, right? That sit upon many waters. Much like when the scriptures tell you that the beast shall hate the whore, it's speaking about what? NATO, the EU, hating who? America, Babylon the Great, right? So I'm going to read it again. It says, "And there came one of the seven angels, which had the seven vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither, I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters." Right? And we understand waters is also representative people, right? It says, "With whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication," right? Because we see that America being the hammer of the earth, ultimately it has the power of that sword in order to scare nations into submission, right? And that's why you're seeing a global domination by Babylon the Great. We just seen them take over Venezuela in hours, man, right? And how did they do it? By the force of the sword, right? And understanding that this is Esau's blessing. When we go back into the book of Genesis, the 27th chapter, and Isaac blessed him with that, right? And also what? The fatness of the earth, which are what? The resources within it. So it says, "With whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication." Now, who are some of those kings? You got Moab, you got Ammon, right? You got Elam, right? You have the so-called African nations, Cush, Put, Ham, right? Or Ham, right? Who else do you have? Hey, you have so you got Russia, that's part of it, right? They're one of the kings of the earth, right? You have those Middle Eastern nations, you know, Saudi Arabia, but you also have countries like down in South America, right? Venezuela, they have their kings or their mayors, their presidents, their leaders, right? How have they committed fornication or been in bed with Babylon the Great? Let's go into this word fornication, right? It says G4203 porneo. It says to prostitute one's body to the lust of another, to give oneself to unlawful sexual intercourse, right? This is the point here. It says metaphorically, to be given to idolatry, to worship idols, to permit oneself to be drawn away by another into idolatry, to act as the harlot, right? So it's not as if these nations are physically in bed with Esau, but they given unto their into Edomite's ways, into Esau's ways, man. Hence Americanization, right? So matter of fact, I'm gonna read this precept, and then we're gonna get into the word Americanization, right? Americanization. Hey, it's beautiful right here. It says metaphorically the worship of idols. Here it is, adultery, and this is for the word G4203. It says porneia or nia. It says the adultery, fornication, homosexuality, lesbianism, intercourse with animals. And we understand Esau promotes Hey, as Elder Yashawamba says, the Labiquita community, man, or the LGBT plus whatever else, right? And these nations have adopted that philosophy because Esau is ultimately spreading it to them, much like it was Obama wicked ass. I believe it was Kenya. Basically, he said he went over there to Kenya and told them people, "Hey, we want y'all to adopt the custom of Mo life," and they told him, "Hey, we are not gays, man." Right? Because he was gonna give them a bag if they abided by that philosophy, by that wine, but they rejected it, man. They rejected it. And when you reject what Esau wants you to deem as truth, or when you reject what Esau deems as the new life, or what this world calls social norms, that's when he has a problem, man. Right? Because at that point he understands that he can't control you. So let's get into this word, Americanization. After I'm read this again, then we're gonna get into it. It says, "With whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication." Right? That wine goes into philosophies, man, or ideologies. The word here is G3631, and it reads, it's like it. Let me double check. It says oinos. It's it. It's like it. It says wine. It's like it. Here it is. It says a love potion. Ooh, it's like quick pre. And this is coming from the book of Nahum. 1 second. Nahum, Nahum, the 3rd chapter. This is 1. This Nahum 3. I'm going to start at 4. And it reads, "Because of the multitude of the whoredoms of the well-favored harlot," right? Now, this is speaking of ancient Nineveh, but we also understand that America is spiritually in Nineveh, man, right? It says, "Because of the multitude of the whoredoms of the well-favored harlot, the mistress of witchcrafts that selleth nations through her whoredoms and families through her witchcrafts," right? And when we read here, it says a love potion. Matter of fact, I want to go into the online Edom, and I want to go into that word potion. All right, this is the online item for the word potion. It says a medical drink, a dose of liquid, medicine, or poison. Right? Poison. So when we go back into the book of Nahum, and it's telling you because of the multitude of the whoredoms of the well-favored harlot, the mistress of witchcrafts, we could say that selleth nations through her poisons, her whoredoms, her poisons, or we say her through her whoredoms, and families through her witchcrafts, which is pharmakia, which are poisons as well, man. Right? So go back into the word potion. It says medical drink, dose of liquid, medicine, or poison. It says a poisonous draught, a magic potion. A magic potion, man. A magical or enchanted drink. It says a doublet of poison. Right? A poison is what? A deadly substance. It says spiritually corrupting ideas, evil intentions. Hey, does this not, what's the word? It's like it. Does this not embody, America, the philosophies in which they're passing on to the rest of these nations? Is this not speaking about, the all the facets of the image of the beast, man? Right? Corrupting ideas. Because what the scriptures say, matter of fact, let me grab another precept. I know I'm everywhere, but gotta bring these scripts out, man. This is Proverbs. Okay, I got this up now. What was that? It's like it. Right? It says spiritually corrupting ideas or evil intentions. Does not the scripture say this in the book of Proverbs 17:15? He that justifieth the wicked and he that condemneth the just, even they are both. It's like even they both are an abomination to Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. Right? So Esau justifies the wickedness. Right? That's why the scripture says this. 1 second. It's coming from the book of Isaiah 5:20. And it reads, woe unto them that call evil good and good evil, that put darkness for light and light for darkness, that put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter, right? Understanding that Esau is the adversary unto righteousness, he calls evil good and good evil, right? He puts darkness for light and light for darkness. He puts bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. And that's why the scripture says, surely the turning of things upside, surely the turning of things upside down shall be esteemed as the potter's clay, man. Right? Esau uplifts all wickedness. That's why you see when you look at the music industry, who's on top? Those that are promoting the most just degenerate lyrics, promoting the most degenerate lifestyle, right? He could easily put up a rapper, a singer who's promoting positivity, who's promoting their people being in good positions. Nah, but he rather put the niggas on the forefront. And one quote I always says, he know the right niggas to give money to, man, right? Because these same niggas feed it right back into their system, right? Here it is, you're promoting our women to be whores, our men to be moles and thugs, and then you have a problem with Jake killing each other. Well, you promote that behavior, man. That's part of that potion. That's part of the corrupting ideas and evil intentions that he has set up for our people. Does not the scripture say, for they sleep not except they have done mischief? For their sleep is taken away unless they cause some to fall, right? So he meditates. Hey, Esau meditates here on the left-hand side on how to destroy our people with evil intentions and corrupting ideas. So when we go further down, it says to kill with poisonous plants. So like it. I like this one right here. It says, if persons detested or regarded as exerting baleful influence. I'm gonna look up this word baleful influence because I'm not sure what it means. It says baleful or baneful or baleful applies typically to what causes evil or destruction. The baneful bite of who? Of a serpent. And you can't make this up, man. Is that not Esau's MO? Right? Is he not the cunning serpent, the cunning hunter? Right? Is this not speaking of him? And if it isn't, who is it speaking about? Right? It says full of menacing or malign influences, pernicious. The scriptures speak about what? Their pernicious ways. Under its baleful influence, right? Bottom line, accounts matter more than the quality of programs or the amount of violence. Portending evil, ominous, harmful or malignant in intent or effect. So this is him, man. It's speaking of Esau, Edom, right? These are all his characteristics. And I like the fact that it said the baneful bite of a serpent, because that goes right back into this devil, man. He's a serpent, right? When we go into the book of Sirach 12 and it tells you to never trust thine enemy, we know who our enemy is. Is who? Esau, the nation of Edom, so-called white man and his woman. You gotta throw her in there too. She's not an exception to the rule, right? So to continue, so like I'm gonna go back to here and Isaiah 5 and 20. I'm gonna read again. I'm gonna read Proverbs again, and we're gonna get back to it. It says, woe unto them that call evil good and good evil, that put darkness for light and light for darkness, that put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. All right, this is, all right, back in Proverbs 17. Let's see what it says in the NLT. Acquitting the guilty and condemning the innocent, both are detestable unto the Lord. Let's see. NASB 20, one who justifies the wicked and one who condemns the righteous, right? Because as Yahushua was condemned, right? When we go into the book of Isaiah, I believe the 53rd chapter, it said he was basically paraphrasing, he was grouped with the transgressors, right? He was ultimately condemned, even though he was righteous, right? And Barabbas, who was wicked, he was justified by being let go. So much like in the times that we're coming into, the elect are going to be persecuted, and niggas, you know, it's going to seem as if a nigga's ways are are going to be justified, you know, because they won't be as in trouble as the men of the Lord. But ultimately, hey, they're going to be destroyed, man, while the elect are going to be acquitted from Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, right? So that was the point, you know, just to get those few off. And to go back to this witchcraft here, because we were speaking about that love potion, man, right? Because they looked upon Babylon as if it were, you know, that beautiful woman, you know, until they woke up out of that out of them beer goggles and seen that this whore was filthy, right? It says a love potion as if it were wine exciting to fornication, which he is said to give who entices others to idolatry, right? It's beautiful how Yahweh Shema Shai lines all of this up. I got this, oops. Yep. This is Revelation 14 and 8. It says, and there followed a, because now we're going to get into that Americanization. And I have a few other precepts. One second. Ooh. Right. One quick second. So we went into that word love potion, right? This is Nahum 3 for that word witchcrafts. The word is kashap or kashaf. Yeah, kashap. It says sorcery, witchcraft. It says magic, sorcery. It says figurative of seductive and corrupting influences. And that's exactly what the image of the beast is, man. They're seductive and corrupting influences. And the nations have seen just how much damage those influences have caused unto their people. Incantations, sorceries, those are like spells, man, right? They've seen how much it's just poisoned the mind of their women. Hey, because now you have women in the Middle East posting videos on TikTok of themselves twerking. Now they saying they don't need their jobs, you know, so forth and so on, man. Right? You got McDonald's in every part of the world. You got a KFC in every part of the world, man. These are Esau's influences that are ultimately killing people, right? So let's get into it. I got a quick video, fair use, man. You know, it says Americanization, good or bad. Hey, and we understand it's evil, but let's play the video.
Individuals or groups from other cultures adopt American customs, values, and lifestyle. This concept often involves the influence of American culture on various aspects of life, such as language, food, fashion, and entertainment. The term emerged in
Also laws, right? Laws as well. Hey, the economy, the American dollar, that's part of the Americanization as well. USD.
early 20th century, during a period of significant immigration to the United States, when efforts were made to assimilate immigrants into American society. One notable example of Americanization is the widespread use of the English language. Many non-English speaking countries incorporate English into their educational systems, media, and business environments, often prioritizing it over their native languages.
Right. And the thing about that is, and you're having a majority of these nations, especially when you like take a look at like Moab, shit, even the Northern Kingdom, man. You know, they're marking off white or Caucasian on their identification, you know, what you call it, packets, right? Because they want to be just like this devil, man. And that's ultimately them hating themselves, right? They have something. It was I did a lesson on a while back. And it was basically Asian women saying that they much rather be with a white man than any other nation, and that's because Esau's up. You know, this current kingdom is his. You know, he has the power. Hey, the Edomite man is the man of this eon or this era, right? But that's It's only because Yahweh Shema Shai gave him this appointed time to rule. Because in the kingdom to come, right? The world that will never end, all women will be looking towards Jake, man. The princes of the power, Yasser Allah, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. We're going to be on top again.
Another example is the global popularity of American fast food chains, such as McDonald's and KFC,
That's the spirit. I didn't even watch this, man. Didn't even watch it yet. This is my first time watching it.
which have become ubiquitous in cities around the world, offering American style cuisine. Additionally, American movies and television shows dominate global entertainment, influencing fashion, speech, and social norms. Lastly, American holidays like Halloween and Valentine's Day are increasingly celebrated in various countries, blending American customs with local traditions. Let's look at three benefits of Americanization.
And there's no benefits, man. Right? It's straight poison. Because when you take a look at, you can't just bring out micro, quote unquote, or what they would say benefits, right? Esau isn't doing anything to benefit the world, man. Americanization and the Edomite has destroyed the earth. There's nothing beneficial that he's created. Hey, the air you're breathing is tainted. The water you're drinking is defiled. The food you're eating is poison, man. Right? The fact that women can usurp authority over their men is completely going off. The scriptures tell you all these things. It's not like we're just making them up. There's no benefit, man. Say, look, they're gonna say it promotes cultural exchange and understanding. Well, that's basically saying, oh well, we want to be more like the Edomite. Because there's no such thing as American culture, man. You have a bunch of people here, but the sauce or the style, the salt that comes up out of America comes from Jake, man. Without Jake being here in America, there is no culture. And that's Southern Kingdom and Northern Kingdom. Because he don't have no salt, man. He don't have no flavor. So everything that they're deeming American culture is coming straight from the salt of the earth. It says fostering global communication and cooperation. It's all a bunch of nothing, man. Enhances access to information and education. Prevalence of the English language, which every other nation says is the hardest language to understand, right? Every other nation says it's the hardest language to understand because you have words like there, right? We can go on and on, man. American media, they're more than likely listening to Jake's music or watching movies by Jake, so forth and so on, man. So all of these quote unquote benefits deal with us, right? Let's look at the
As American
what
culture
you call it, the cons.
becomes more dominant, traditional customs and languages may be marginalized or lost, reducing cultural diversity. Second,
Basically, nations forget themselves ultimately by trying to become Edomites, man. Right? Much like how our heritage was stripped from
Americanization
us. The scripture says what in Jeremiah 17, right? Even thou thyself shall discontinue from the heritage which the Lord thy power gave thee, right? Because when you take a look, before even Esau established this revitalization of the Roman Empire, you had the Greeks that came into power. And underneath those Greeks, what occurred? Well, let's grab it. Right? Because before Americanization, you had you can say I can't say Greekanization. I don't know. I'm just making up words now, but this is First Maccabees 1, right? Before Americanization, you had heathenization, man, right? Or Hellenization, right? And how do we know? When we go here in the book of First Maccabees 1. One second. It says, and King Antiochus wrote into the whole kingdom. Here we go. First Maccabees 1 and 41. Moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people, right? Saying there shouldn't be any distinguishing factors or culture between an Israelite and everyone else. All should be Greeks. It says, and everyone should leave his laws, the laws and statutes and commandments, right? So all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king. And who else? Yea, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion. So that's Hellenization right there, right? So as you had Americanization, and you got the Hellenization or the heathenistic period, man, in which Jake were converted ultimately to become Greeks. Just like here in Babylon, they're converted to become who? Americans, right? It says, and sacrificed unto idols and profaned the Sabbath. For the king had sent letters by messengers unto Jerusalem and the cities of Judah that they should follow the strange laws of the land and forbid burnt offerings and sacrifice and drink offerings in the temple, and that they should profane the Sabbaths and festival days and pollute the sanctuary in holy people, set up altars and groves, chapels of idols, and sacrifice swine's flesh and unclean beasts, that they shall also leave their children uncircumcised and make their souls abominable with all manner of uncleanness and profanation, to the end that they were what? Might forget the law and change all the ordinances. And whosoever would not do according to the commandment of the king, he said, should die. So it's going to say what? Jake ultimately forsook the laws of their fathers to become heathens, right? Just like they're saying, oh, we're not Israelites, we Americans, we blacks, we niggas. Jake will have all these bywords put on them to not be princes of the power, right? So, quote unquote, Americanization does far more harm than good, man, because there's nothing good out of Esau colonizing you. Because look at what's happening. An insatiable appetite just breeds more destruction. And that's all we see from this devil, man, is destruction in hell. So, like, so let's go here into the book of because I read Revelation 17. It's actually some more on it that I gotta grab. It's 18, it's 13, it's 14, it's 50. 1 second. One. It's like I'm back in Revelation on the 17th chapter. It says in 2, it says, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine for fornications, man. Right? Now, I have this here from chat. And I asked it, what is Americanization? It says Americanization is the process by which individuals, groups, or societies adopt aspects of American culture, values, practices, and social norms. It can happen intentionally through policy, education, or media, or unintentionally through globalization and cultural influence. And that's not an unintentional thing, because Esau's media promotes these cultural influences and ultimately the globalization. It says cultural Americanization, right? And matter of fact, before I go there, let's go into the book of Revelation, 13th chapter. All right. This is Revelation 13, and I'm gonna start here at 11. It says, and I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon, right? Now it says another beast of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb, right? We understand these two horns represent two power structures, right? And the ancient power structures in which it's speaking about are the ancient plebeians and patricians, right? The patricians were basically the elite families who controlled all the laws. The plebeians were the ones, the commoners, man, right? And they allowed the commoners to believe that they actually had power of choice, power of vote, much like in society today, right? These two horns representing who? The Republicans and the Democrats, right? So ancient was more a caste system, class system. Today is a two-party system in which you'll vote to put your trust in a delegate, and ultimately the elites are picking those two delegates, and then the president, hence electoral college, right? It says two horns like a lamb, right? It's seen as a delicate, innocent, precious system, right? You vote for it, they put whoever you voted for in office. The government don't hurt nobody, it's all for the people. When in reality, says, and he spake as a dragon. right? This word, it's like this word dragon goes back to the online Edom word dracon, right? And matter of fact, I'm gonna go into that word dracon, right? Because it was a ruler who told you. I'm reading it. This is the word draconian, right? For that word dragon, it says of or pertaining to Draco, in reference to laws rigorous, extremely severe or harsh, right? And Esau is gonna come with these rigorous, extremely severe and harsh laws as 2026 continues. We already see that ISIS, often people and not being held accountable for them taking lives. And we see that America is going into other countries and just kidnapping their leaders and wives. So the harshness is about to befall the American people to a point where they're going to rebel and have civil war within the streets. So prophecy is at an all-time high, man. If you're not watching, hey, that's on you. It says Dracon or Draco is the Latinized form of the Greek word Dracon, name of the Archon of Athens, who laid down a code of laws for Athens. 621 BCE that mandated what? Death as punishment for minor crimes. So when the scripture is saying he shall speak like a dragon, those that don't bow down into the image of the beast, he is going to persecute and kill, right? And it's going to get into that, man. It says, and he exercised all the power of the first beast before him, which is the ancient Roman Empire, right? Because that's whom this beast system has come from. That's who the ideologies of this revitalized Roman Empire has descended from. It says, and causeth the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast whose deadly wound was healed. Let's go into this word worship. As G4352, proskuneo. I like this tone right here. It says, meaning to kiss like a dog licking his master's hand, right? Ultimately, that master is fully in control of that dog, and that dog is bowing down because it has no choice, right? It understands whose house or who's feeding it, right? And Babylon the Great is feeding these nations, not only these philosophies, but telling them, if you don't obey what I say, the hammer is right here for you. It says in the New Testament, by kneeling or prostration to do homage, right? Matter of fact, to go here just to show forth that, I asked ChatGPT, speak about the economics and how all nations have adopted the dollar. Also speak about how nations don't dress in their national garb anymore, only suits and ties, right? And this is still connected to Americanization. It says, here's a focused explanation tying Americanization to economics, culture, especially the US dollar and dress norms. It says, Americanization through economics, the dominance of the US dollar. One of the strongest forms of Americanization is monetary and economic, centered on the USD as the world's reserve currency, how the dollar became global. After World War II, Bretton Woods system 1944 established the US dollar as the backbone of global finance, backed by gold, right? Because we also understand it was backed by the silver standard as well. But it says after the gold standard ended in 1971, the dollar retained its dominance because the US had the largest economy and deepest financial markets. Global trade, especially what? Oil, and we see them making that increase again with Venezuela being 30% of the world's supply in oil, and them saying what 30 to 50 billion gallons, right, of oil. It says was priced in dollars. U.S. Treasury bonds were seen as the safest place to store value, and that was ultimately done through the link Bacon families. Slack it. It says dollarization and dependence. Many countries hold dollar reserves to stabilize their currencies, conduct international trade in dollars, and take loans denominated in dollars. Some nations fully or partially dollarize their economies. Ecuador, Panama, El Salvador, effectively giving up monetary sovereignty. So completely bowing down unto the whore, right? Completely bowing down unto the whore, man. This creates a system where the U.S. can export inflation, and that's what we've seen as far as tariffs on Venezuela, right? Here it is, you are an oil-rich country, also known as black gold, and you can't make no money to support your economy nor its citizens, because the U.S. put tariffs on you in order to not being able to trade. But since they invaded and took over, they're gonna take those tariffs right off and are gonna make trillions of dollars off that same natural resources that you had. So sanctions become powerful economic weapons, right? Sanctions, tariffs, developing nations are vulnerable to U.S. interest rate decisions, right? And if the U.S. put a high interest rate, in a country, it's not much they can do, because everybody is dealing with that same currency. Now, this is the point right here that I want to prove. It says Americanization of global leadership and appearance, suits over traditional dress. Another subtle but powerful form of Americanization is how authority looks, right? Because Esau is now seen as the standard of authority, right? And that's ultimately, he can have that position because he's ultimately the one in power, man. Hey, shalom, shalom, yeah. Yahweh Bashima Shai Bashima Kakodash Barakatah. Shalom, bro. Continuing, it says the suit as global uniform across governments, corporations, international summits, and even religious and academic institutions. The Western business suit and tie has become the default symbol of legitimacy, professionalism, intelligence, and authority. So when we go back into the scripture here in Revelation 14:8, and it says, and there followed another angel saying, Babylon is fallen, that great city, because she made all nations drink of the wine of her wrath of her fornication, right? Part of that philosophy, part of those wines, are these subtopics in which we're talking about today, like talking about right now, man, right? Going back to the oinos, right? That wine, that love potion, right? Talking about that love potion, all that's in it. Hey, it's like a wicked jungle juice, man. Yeah, the image of the beast is a wicked jungle juice that he has made all these nations to drink. And this is just another part of it. The suit as a global uniform and the default symbol of legitimacy, professionalism, intelligence, and authority. Right? Hence, Americanization. Image of the beast is one and the same, man. It's just a different name on it. It says decline of national dress and public power. So like back here. It says traditional garments, robes, turbans, kimonos, dashikis, saris, kefias, I think that's how you say it, Salaki, agbadas, are now often restricted to ceremonies or cultural events. So how is Esau Edom able to tell these nations, you can't wear what you traditionally wore and what your forefathers wore into these important conferences and summits? Why is that? Ultimately, because they're under his rule. They're still bowing down into the image of the beast, man. Right? They still have to be subjected unto this hammer. It says viewed as informal. Here it is. Yo, people been wearing this garb all their life. And this nigga E can just come in and say, hey, it's not informal. It's not modern enough. I'm saying that it's not. I'm saying it's unprofessional. Right? And leaders who wear national dress in international settings are often treated as symbolic exceptions rather than equals. Right? Now, here it is. You only have one nation. You can say one or two, right? You say America and Britain, that wear the suit and tie or can say the suit and tie are their standard. Every other nation, they have their own clothing to wear. So why is it that in Israel as well, but they got they small hat and the rest of that, right? So why is it that the rest of the nations who are in attendance can't just wear their national garb and say, America, can y'all wear what y'all want to wear? Because they don't have the power. It's going to take all those nations, and most importantly, with the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashim Shai and Yahweh Shai returning to take this devil down. The unspoken rule is clear. To be taken seriously in global economics or politics, one must look Western. In other words, one must look or mimic the Edomite, man. This reinforces the idea that modernity has a specific aesthetic, power has a uniform, and cultural uniqueness must be muted to participate fully in global systems. Hey, is that not them bowing down? Going back to Revelation 13, let's get back to it. So like I'm trying to find it. I got all these different, right? Because we went back into this word worship. It says in the New Testament, by kneeling or prostrating to do homage to one or make obeisance, whether in order to express respect or to make supplication, used of homage shown to men and beings of superior rank. And that's how they see Esau, as dogs licking his hand, prostrating themselves, reverencing him, worshiping him, to fall upon the knees and touch the ground with the forehead. And that's what they're doing, man. So when you fight against that, you know, as the prophets of Yahweh Bashim Shai are, you know, as we are, man, you know, E is gonna have a problem with it. That's why the scripture says, and I'm gonna jump to 15. It says, and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. It's that simple, man. It's that simple, right? So all these nations drinking of the cup. Matter of fact, let's get back to it here. I'm gonna read this and I'm gonna grab another precept. It says, Revelation 14:8, and read again. It says, and there followed another angel saying, Babylon is fallen, that great city, because she had made all nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. And ultimately, we understand when we go into the book of Revelation, the 13th chapter, right? It's like Revelation, the 18th chapter. You know, it speaks about those same nations shooting upon her. Yeah, those same nations shooting upon her. And ultimately, you know, and I'll read it here. This is Revelation 18. This is Revelation 18:3. And it reads, for all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, right? They've all submitted unto the image of the beast. And ultimately, they're going to push that mark upon their nations as well, which the mark is a physical device, man, the CHI to the P, the MOTB, right? And it's going to be administered into the body of all nations around the world. But most importantly, if you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans receive it, Yahweh Shema Shai is going to burn you and judge you with this place. Hence, Revelation 14:9-10. Right? So it says, for all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her. Americanization, right? That image of the beast, man. Right? All those philosophies, facets, and wine of this place. It says, and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies, right? Hey, because they've gotten great gain in commerce, you know, from joining themselves with this whore, man. You know, hey, the Saudis, you know, the Middle Eastern countries, you know, the oil rich, you know, Elamites, or it's like I said, oil rich Elamites, the oil rich Ishmaelites. They've got gain doing business with Babylon, man. Right? They've received millions to trillions of dollars by joining themselves with this horde. But ultimately, that's going to be to their detriment, man. It's going to be to their detriment. Right? They're eating the bread of the wicked that have an evil eye, man. As the scripture says in the book of Proverbs. Checking just to make sure I'm hitting all these precepts. 1 second. All right, so we understand that all these nations have drunken of the wine of this place. So what sentiment are you seeing now? You're seeing all of them now be in the mind state to turn on her, right? You're seeing Trump basically say, yeah, we want Greenland, and you're going to come up off of it, right? Hey, and NATO saying, well, hey, you try attacking Greenland, you know, we're going to turn against you, which is ultimately the prophecy back in Revelation, the 17th chapter. Salaki. About the beast hating the whore. So like I had to burp real quick. Matter of fact, let's let's grab that. It's Revelation 17. I'm gonna jump down to the the 16th full slot, 15th verse. And he said unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the horse sitteth, are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore and shall make her desolate and naked. So it's not as if, we're the only ones. Well, I'll say this, we're on the forefront because we're pushing through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Shai about escaping from this place spiritually, mentally, and then Yahweh Shai is going to deliver us, Lord willing, physically. But before that occurs, these same nations that have drunken of that wine are going to hate this place, hate the whore, Babylon the Great, and make her desolate with what? Fire, right? Shall make her desolate and naked, right? Because they're going to turn on her, leaving her with no with no allies, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire, thus thermonuclear fire, right? For Yahweh hath put in their hearts to fulfill his will. And as the book of Ezekiel, the 38th chapter says, that evil thought, it says, and to agree and give their kingdom unto the beast, until the words of Yahweh Shem Shai shall be fulfilled. So when we go back here into the book of Jeremiah, the 50th chapter, now I'm closing it out, 50 and 13, it says, because of the wrath of Yahweh Shem Shai, it shall not be inhabited, right? This place is going to be left for desolate, full of desert creatures. It says, but it shall be wholly desolate. Everyone that goeth by Babylon shall be astonished and hiss at all her plagues. 14, put yourselves in array against Babylon round about, all ye that bend the bow, right? Including those former allies, where we're seeing NATO and the EU, right? Shoot at her, spare no arrows, for she hath sinned against Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai, right? Shout against her round about. She hath given her hand, her foundations are fallen, her walls are thrown down, for it is the vengeance of the Lord. Take vengeance upon her, as she had done, do unto her. So going back into Revelation 18 chapter, in 8, matter of fact, I'm going to start at 5. It says, for her sins have reached unto heaven, and Yahweh hath remembered her iniquities. Reward her even as she rewarded you, and double unto her, double according to her works, in the cup she had filled to her double, right? How much she had glorified herself. Let's go into this word, glorified. Is G1392. And it says, doaxdo. It says, to think, suppose, or be an opinion of being what? Of being that queen. To be praised, to be extolled, magnified, right? Celebrated, to make glorious or adorn, clothed with splendor, right? Because this is the the beauty of the kingdoms, man. Knowing that America has been America has been a successful nation in wickedness, man. And it has been, the strongest militarily. It has been made renowned or seen as illustrious, right? Adorned with beauty and quote unquote freedoms, which is just really sinful nature, right? It says glory, to glory oneself, and that's ultimately self-pride. And the Lord hates pride. Hence the scripture, Obadiah, for the pride of thine heart hath deceived thee, says to exalt to a glorious rank or condition. And you see the proudest man in office, Trump. He talks about the splendor of Babylon, man. How great of a nation this place is, right? He talks big shit about this place, man. Knowing that his forefathers have seized, stealed, and killed in order to get it, right? 7, it says, for she hath, how much she hath glorified herself and lived deliciously, so much torment and sorrow give her. For she saith in her heart, I sit a queen and am no widow, and shall see no sorrow, right? Believing that they're untouchable. And that sentiment is still heavy in America, right? That normalcy bias spirit, that nothing bad will happen unto me until it does, right? It says, therefore shall her plagues come in one day, death and mourning and famine, and she shall be utterly burned with fire, for strong is the Lord power who judgeth her. For strong is Yahweh Shai who judgeth her. And all those nations that have been what's the word? Deceived and made to drink of the image of the beast, of that American philosophy, the Americanization, they're going to be the ones to help destroy this place. Thus saith the scriptures, man. So that's pretty much the point of the lesson. There's no need to go further. The point should be made, understood. A Lord willing, it was edifying unto the body. I want to give all praises, glory, and honor unto Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Harakah HaKodash. Double honors unto the apostles and elders of GMS Great Millstone, and a sincere shalom to Yakim bringing out this word in diligence and in truth. Shalom.